Most ministers have their special favorites of all the holy days that we get to celebrate in the Christian church. For many ministers and congregants alike, I think Christmas Eve is probably many people's favorites. Also, Easter is a wonderful favorite, but today, Epiphany Day, is one of my very favorite days. Historically, this day has many important meanings. The actual day of Epiphany is January 6th, and usually churches around the world will celebrate on the Sunday closest to January 6th, though many also worship on that very day itself. The day itself, though, has lots and lots of different important meanings that have developed over time. For many, it is Christmas Day, January 6th, the day Jesus was born. For other Christian traditions, January 6th was the day that Jesus was baptized by John in the Jordan River. And for others, like us, it is the day in which we commemorate the arrival of the wise ones, bearing their gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. In Tarpon Springs, Florida, and in other areas where live many people of the Greek Orthodox side of the Christian family, there are special celebrations that take place for Epiphany. Up in Tarpon Springs, they have, and some of you may have attended this, the ceremonial diving for the cross that commemorates Jesus' baptism and offered as a rite of passage to all the young men of the parish who line up and register to participate in this event. And after a formal blessing ceremony and a beautiful processional by the church members and others, tourists gather for this event every year, they go down to the water's edge and the young men each dive for a specially designated cross that is blessed and hurled into the water by the bishop. The diver who surfaces with the cross in hand is particularly blessed for the coming year and honored to keep that cross as a special reminder. I would love to go and see that event someday, but not this year, not in COVID times. I know, though, that I am very partial to our Western Christianity's honoring of the Magi tradition with its mysterious astrologers and that amazing star. But some years, I'm actually preoccupied by the wise ones themselves, wondering if they knew what or whom they were seeking as their journey unfolded that long, long way, or if they were just doing what they did every day, which was to learn and follow and chart their course and read the wisdom of the earth, and that they were just going about their lives as they always did, not really taking it in the moment. And I wonder about that because I know that for me, and maybe for you as well, sometimes my most momentous life journeys were made by walking, and I didn't really understand their significance in the moment. Didn't really understand what the subject of my quest was until long afterward. This is a wonderful story, the story of the Magi as they were living through their own version of their most momentous year. As I think it is safe to say, we have just done ourselves a most momentous year. For the Magi, the portents in the night sky were of something significant about to come, potentially earth-shattering. Something was about to happen, and they saw this star in the east that they followed, and what we believe is that it was the great conjunction that we just witnessed as well in our own time. The conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn as they came as close to one another in the night sky as they will for several hundred more years. We believe that the Magi potentially saw what we saw, those of us who gathered here, gathered on Indian Rocks Beach the night of the winter solstice, while so many of us, burdened people with fears and mysteries of our own in our hearts, lined the sand with our telescopes and our awe, the wise ones, the ancient ones, knew then in the time of Jesus and now, that beautiful, important signs are all around us all the time and indicate for us the movement of spirit in the world, inviting us to hope, to a new time, for peace, that there will be in this new year something more, some light, some hope, some possibilities that make our journey worthwhile, well worth the search. And so this story has particular meaning, it seems to me, for us this year. There have been lots of little fiction books written about the wise ones, what they said, what they did according to the fictitious imagined tales that authors would write. How they arrived in Bethlehem, how they met the Christ child, what they knew or didn't know after they met Herod. But I wish I had read, or maybe I need to write just one in which they wrote a journal about their trip, what they had figured out on the road together, how they had learned in one another's company by the time they made their arrival. The important thing, I think, is that they started. And that's the thing I noticed about this story this year. They started. Sometimes when circumstances weigh us down, as they certainly do this year, it is hard for us to be intentional about getting started in our lives on our own personal wise ones trip. It feels like this COVID year, we've just been waiting, not starting anything, waiting to get a relief check in the mail, waiting to feel better, waiting to see our families again, waiting for the virus to be over, for the vaccine to come. But being intentional in the moment is very important. That is often the message of scripture stories. I mean, God is often present in the waiting. I've always believed that God, through the stars and through the journey and on the earth and in each other and in ourselves, stumbling along the path, is still whispering, inviting us to wisdom when we get it and when we don't, but being intentional about the search, as were the wise ones this year, especially feels empowering to me. Start it. Those words will be on someone's Epiphany star this year. And speaking of the stars, they're available in the church offices of both churches. If you want to stop by during office hours, I'll give you your Epiphany star for this year. They start the journey, these wise ones. And being wise, they already knew that something important was about to happen. And so they carried with them their gifts that would symbolize the importance of the journey. Good gifts, symbolic gifts, gold. Gold in ancient stories is not only a symbol of riches, but it is also a symbol of all that is physical, elemental, the treasure of the earth, the material, flesh and blood and rock and bone, God in earth and earth in God. They carried frankincense, the smoky, sweet incense of worship. The material that when it is burned turns the physical to spirit, to smoke and fire. Frankincense handled by those who touch the spiritual mysteries, and myrrh, the embalming spice for the dead, the reality of mortality, reminding us that our time, our experience is limited. These wise ones remind us that what we must carry in our hearts and in our spirits are the gifts of the material, the gifts of the metaphysical, and the gifts of the metamorphosis. And when they saw the star, they were overcome with joy, says the story. And when they arrived, they broke open all they had brought to the moment. They offered the journey's experiences themselves, I suspect, to the poor Christ child. And then they traveled on, aware of the dangers and returning by another road. George MacLeod, who was the founder of the amazing Celtic community on the Isle of Iona off the coast of Scotland, wrote these words in 1958, and I share them with you because they so speak to Epiphany this year, the season of the appearing. He writes, "Follow truth wherever you find it, even if it takes you outside your preconceived ideas of God or life, even if it takes you outside your own country and into the most insignificant alien places like Bethlehem. Be courageous, but concentrate on the search. All truth is one. All roads lead home, and the seemingly devious route will take you to a single star. And you will find it is the morning star for you. In the end, you see the sun behind all suns. Follow the light you have been given and pray for more light." It is a new year, friends. This past year has been one leg of the journey for you and for me, and there is no doubt that you and I arrive at 2021 wiser men, women, children than we have ever been before this past year happened to us. We can't help but be. As this next part of our journeys is unfolding, we have important spiritual questions to ask ourselves. Where will the journey lead? What will we carry in our hands as gifts to the one? How will we travel? Who will go with us? Who will depart and go by a different road? How will we be guided? By what truth? By what light? By which stars? Wisdom, it seems to me, hopefully in our lives is cumulative, that we pile learning upon learning over time, and that each part of the learning is like a guide rope that we hold on to as we traverse a very steep trail upward. And the rope helps us to make it to the next level. We need all the light, the guidance, the help from friends and earth that we can get. We need all the help we can get to help us navigate each part of the journey. One year, one of my Epiphany stars was let go. And that is another part of the learning, holding on and also letting go. And that learning keeps on teaching me. And it's a learning that also, ironically, I haven't quite grasped yet. I'm still learning. It will come. I will learn it. And so will you. We'll get our lessons. That's the assurance of this story. The journey that we make by walking will take us to that light. The wonderful story of the journey of the Magi, the Iraqi astrologers, and their journey to visit the Christ child does include, though, a cautionary note, a question. And that question is, when do we, like the Magi, stop and turn aside, divert, to hobnob with Herod, to find ourselves deluded, delayed, and diverted from our life's compassionate mission, finding ourselves a bit off course, a bit delayed. We are called this new year to be like the wise ones, to go carefully, to know that we are here and that beside us also and all around us, in addition to the blessings, are the Herods of pride and violence and lies and fear and greed, tricksters, all. And this new year, in this wise one's journey, we will find our lives unfolding with many juxtapositions. I feel sure that that's true. And as the great poet T.S. Eliot once wrote, certain realities will be birthed into our lives that we will experience as deaths. Deaths. We can't go back and unknow these things, but we will be given the light that we need to understand them. I believe that's true. To move through them and into the next part of the journey. The Magi were wanderers. They were seeking more light. They were daring to follow the mysteries unfolding. And now, as in their story, there are adventures and new truth and violence and pain and sorrow that can threaten to obliterate the holiness. And the challenge is to remind ourselves to trust, to faith, to dare full-hearted, open-handed living, to believe the teachings, to follow our intuition, to heed the warnings, and sometimes to intuit when we need to change course and go by another way. The wise ones learned quickly. They went home by another road. And so in this new year, I pray that you and I will follow the light that we've been given and that we will pray for more light. I pray that we will find within ourselves the courage to start and to start over again and again, so that our intentions toward God, toward earth, and toward one another will open us more and more to light and love and service and kindness and joy and strength and beauty in this world. Open us more and more to the power of the stars. This little tale of the big story ends with the wise ones rejoicing in the starlight, reminded by their dreams and resuming their journey home, changed by all that they had experienced. Remember that you and I are wrapped up like a blanket warm inside this story. And these characters, these old characters, are also wrapped up in our hearts and our memories as well. The calling for us is the same as it was for them: to seek, to ask good questions, to be awake, to be aware, to know that we will often unexpectedly find ourselves diverted, and still to get back on course, incarnating spirit awareness, and to rejoice. To experience Epiphany is to achieve, even for select, sacred moments of our lives, enlightenment. That's what Epiphany really is about, is the aha moment, enlightenment. To take the wise one's journey is to discover your road, yours, mine, and for us to know that that discovery makes all the difference. May you find your road, and may it be filled this new year with more light. May it be so. Amen.